Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Kirby's Dream Land 2. We have finally arrived in World 6, the beautiful and magnificent Cloudy Park. We're going to start things off with the first stage, and as you notice there in the overworld, it's again a pretty interesting looking overworld. We have a gigantic volcano in the background, which is actually kind of a tease, and that's mainly because there is actually no volcano or fire-based level or stage or world in this entire game. As much as I love being up in the clouds and kind of seeing some different scenery here in the game, that is the one thing I have to say I kind of dislike of this game, and I think it is actually lacking, is it, although I will give it credit, it does a fantastic job of switching up the scenery and environments quite a bit. However, yeah, it does lack one thing, which is a fire level. It would have been nice to kind of utilize that volcano in maybe one of the stages in this world, but unfortunately we do not get the chance to do that. We are just mainly going to be focused on the cloudy aesthetic, which again, I don't hate it, but again, it would have been nice to at least have just one stage with, like, I don't know, like a gigantic volcano erupting or something like that. But now we are facing off once again with the Parasol mini-boss, and this is actually Jumper Shoot. I did not mention the name of this mini-boss because I honestly forgot. But yeah, this is Jumper Shoot. Obviously, we faced off with this thing before. It's going to do its little spinning parasol move here, and we just want to do our best to avoid it. Throwing back the objects that it throws at us. I'm not exactly sure what those are that it throws at us. And upon defeating it, we can, of course, obtain the Parasol ability once again. And I guess we'll go ahead and grab Kine, since he's right there, waiting for us to ride inside of his nasty, slimy old mouth. I'm not sure how useful Kine's actually going to be in this stage. I probably should have passed on picking him up. I'm just actually going to get rid of him. Sorry, Kine. I had a little bit of a second thought there. And, of course, we're going to die once again. But it's okay because we have over 30 extra lives. I'm not really worried about dying 31 more times in the game. We only have one more world after this one left, so we're kind of getting close to the end of things here, so I'm really not too concerned, even though we have a lot of difficult, well, I would say bosses and stages coming up here very soon. But nothing that makes me scared of losing 30 lives. So, as you can see, yeah, we have a lot of clouds that again are going to be kind of the main focus of the scenery here, and I don't know, it is kind of a cool little sight to see. I just would have wished I just wish they would have maybe I don't know, added a little bit more variety than just having nothing but stages focus on a bunch of clouds, but that's okay because we'll take what we can get. We went ahead and finished stage 1, and it's now time to enter stage 2. So get pumped, get excited, because we are heading right in to take this thing on. However, before we do that, we need to go take a trip in the past. I don't know what I'm doing here. We need to head back to World 5, Red Canyon. It's time for a little blast of the past. We are actually taking a trip back to Red Canyon. Upon re-entering Red Canyon, we actually want to head back into stage 3, where we have those 3 mini-boss doors giving us each of the 3 animal friends. We're going to actually grab Kine this time. I know I had a chance to use him back in the first stage, but I forgot we actually need him for this stage, because in this stage, we are going to find the 6th rainbow drop, and he is actually required in order to get it. Unfortunately, I know I said I do like this animal friend. I know he is probably the least useful and probably my least favorite of the 3, but he is necessary this time around. We have a bunch of Gordo here. They're going to kind of get in our way here, but we're just going to do our best to avoid them, even though we really didn't do that great of a job. We're going to pick up the ice ability. We can actually grab a free 1-up right there. I love when they just kind of give them to you in plain sight. They don't make you do any extra work for it in certain locations. So, you know, when that happens, I am always going to take it. But now we're moving on to the next section of the stage, and this is actually where we need to pay attention to where we are landing, because the next rainbow drop's actually going to be located not far from where we are now. So when you get to this air current, where this pipe is shooting air, where that 1-up is, you actually need to fall down there, right between these two pipes. Down here is actually a secret entrance way that we need to take. If we go and swim through this current and fight through it to get to the door on the left, we will find another mini-boss fight, this time with Master Green. We want to go ahead and ditch Kine. We do not need Kine any longer. We just needed him to get through that current underwater. But now, our next step in getting the rainbow drop is to acquire the spark ability. And that's what Master Green is going to give us, because he is just that damn cool and friendly, even though we have to essentially kill the dude in order to take it from him. So I guess he's just not going to hand it over very easily. But yeah, so once we get the spark ability, that's actually going to be what we need in order to grab the next rainbow drop. This one is a little bit tricky if you obviously don't know how to get it, because you're not going to know, obviously, upon entering this stage for the first time, that you have to fight through that current to get into this passageway, to get into this mini boss room, because otherwise, yeah, it's going to be kind of difficult. It is also annoying because you do still have to have the ice ability in order to access this section of the stage, and then they expect you to then grab the spark ability, of course, once you have gotten to this point. And you can't get that without Kine, so as you can see, it's kind of a you know, chain of events that you need to kind of go through in order to even have a chance at getting the rainbow drop. But now we're gonna fall right down here. Gonna go through this entranceway here, and as you can see, we have another bag containing an animal friend. We're gonna actually ignore it, and we're gonna focus on these blocks underneath of these cannons, and this is why we needed the spark ability. So in order to get Ku, you have to have the spark ability. So Ku is actually the next step in order to get the rainbow drop. So yeah, as you can see, this thing is a long process in the making. Now that we have Ku, we can actually travel in the air, fighting through this wind current. We want to actually travel to the left, because this is actually where we will find the rainbow drop. It's actually hidden inside of this cave right here. However, we still can't get it. Yeah, believe it or not, we cannot get it yet. We need, yet again, another copy ability in order to break through those blocks to obtain the rainbow drop. What we want to do now is actually head to the right. And again, without Ku, this is essentially impossible, because you're going to be blown like hell to the left, and that's going to stop you from moving in the right direction. So Ku, again, is another requirement to get this one. So yeah, as you can see, this one is probably the most painful one in the game, I would say, because you have to go through so many hurdles and hoops in order to even have a chance at grabbing this freaking thing. But now that we have made it all the way to the right side of the map here, we can actually go through this door. And in this door, we're going to face off with, yet again, Yu, the ninja creature of death that's going to shoot his ninja weapons at us, and we have to destroy him in order to grab his ability, which of course is the cutter ability. And that's the ability we're going to need in order to grab that rainbow drop. So yeah, so once again, just kind of running it down for you, how hard this one is to get. You have to have the ice ability to get through that one section of the stage. You have to have Kine in order to fight through the water current to get to a spark ability in the mini boss room with Master Green. Then you have to have the spark ability to get Ku in order to fight through the air currents to get to the cutter ability. And then once you have the cutter ability, you can finally get through this doorway, but you still have to have Ku. So yeah, you can kind of see where this is going. Yeah, this one's kind of hard. But enough of that. We finally got it. That is the 6th rainbow drop. There was only one more in the game left to find. And we are that much closer to obtaining 100% completion and finishing the game altogether. That's going to do it for stage 2. So yeah, quite a bit to do there in stage 2. If you're not going for 100%, this doesn't matter, of course. But if you are, fair warning, this is a pain in the ass to get all this done in this stage. So, but now that the hard work is over, we have finally, well, we can't really rest quite yet, but we can chill a little bit. We can just kind of casually make our way through the end of these stages, making our way through the rest of Cloudy Park. Now we have a little bit of underwater section here in this stage. Of course, would have been a little bit easier with Kine, but He's nowhere to be found anywhere near us, so we're just going to kind of ignore that for now. We just want to mainly get away from these freaking frogs or whatever the hell these creatures are that are chasing after us. I think these are frog enemies. I do believe they look kind of similar to frogs. But we're just going to kind of avoid them, do our thing, and kind of make our way throughout the stage. Now we have entered a room where we essentially have this giant maze. What we have to do here is break these blocks on each side of this maze, and we can then progress towards the center of the room. And that's what we need to do in order to get through here. Obviously, you are kind of being pulled in a certain direction here. With Q, this can be made a lot easier, as you can see here, especially if you have the combination of Q and the Fireball ability. You can make fine work of that room and get through it within a matter of seconds. If you don't, it can take a little bit of time because you essentially just have to keep going around and around and around until you break those blocks, allowing you through this, allowing you to get to the center of the damn room. But now we have finished that, we're going to make our way downwards. We have a bunch of obstacles in our path here. This can kind of get a little bit tedious because it can take quite a bit of time just to break all these blocks. So you just want to kind of be patient. If you have the Fireball ability like I do here, luckily I didn't lose it right there. This can once again be made very simply, so very simple. So I would highly recommend grabbing that as well as Coup. Parasol ability would probably work just as fine. I just don't know where you would get it anywhere around this specific location. We have these little like mummified, I don't know what these guys, they look like mummy heads. I always thought of these enemies as like mummy heads because they have like a bunch of bandages, I guess, is what they're made up as, and they're in like a circular shape. So in my mind, those are mummy heads. So, but we've finished stage 3, and that's going to do it for that one. And we move right on to stage 4. As you can see, another little tease with the mountains there in the backdrop. I don't know if those are volcanoes as well, or if they're just giant mountains that resemble volcanoes that we saw in the overworld here. We're just going to make our way through here and see what we can find. So, more mummy heads to take care of, so we're just going to kind of bash through them with little to no issue. Avoid the sea eels coming out of the clouds there. I don't know how that logically makes any sense. Again, I don't know how they're able to breathe outside of water since we've seen them in water and now we're seeing them in clouds. So I guess they have capabilities of being able to breathe anywhere they want to. Now it is time to face off once again with good old Captain Stitch. Again, one of the easier mini-boss fights in the game. We just want to wait until he throws his spikes at the wall. Use that as the ammo to send back at him, and we will be done here, and we will be able to grab yet again another animal friend. So not too bad. I think I had this complaint with Kirby's Adventure when I Let's Played that as well, but I always thought that the repetitive mini-boss fights was one of the cons I had with that game, and I would say that would also follow suit with this game as well. I feel like, you know, again, this was a game that came out in the 90s on the Game Boy. You know, the capabilities and limitations that they had and what they were able to work with, I guess, is probably the reason why this is, but the mini-bosses in this game are, you know, very few and far in between. We have, I think, maybe a total of 6 mini-bosses in the entire game, and I think even comparing that even to Kirby's Adventure, there may have even been more mini-bosses in Kirby's Adventure, I don't know, but I feel like they could have maybe expanded upon that and maybe gave us at least like 10, I don't know, like something like that, and just maybe had a little bit more variety instead of just fighting the same fights over and over and just switching it up, you know, as far as what stages they're located in, what rooms you fight them in, and things like that. You know, a very small gripe and nitpick, but I don't know. Again, you know, for a Game Boy game that came out in the 90s, I guess it makes sense why they weren't able to do that. So I'm not going to complain too much about that. It's just kind of a nitpick I have, and I just felt the need to point it out because we are at that point of the game where we have seen every mini-boss already. So we're essentially just kind of repeating fights that we've already done before. So yeah, just a small nitpick, just wanted to point it out. But here we're now forced to travel upward. We have an air current sending us in that direction. We have more blocks in the way, but this time we are tasked with enemies in the way as well. We have Gordo that are actually going to move based on where the blocks are. So as you I don't know if you've noticed before if you played the game, but Gordo will actually, if they're contained in a specific location or a specific area, they will move in coordination with how many blocks are in their way. So if you free enough blocks out of the way, they will continue to move around more, making it more likely that they will hit you. Just wanted to point that out as well. Those 3 1-ups, I've gotten those before. I don't know why I wasn't able to get those, but I actually did a practice playthrough just right before I recorded this playthrough, and I actually got all 3 of those, so I'm not sure why I wasn't able to do that this time, but just that little thing, little things like that kind of annoy me sometimes. I don't know what it is, but just kind of, we don't really need them, but it would have been nice to have 40 extra lives at this point. So I don't know. I'm just kind of an overachiever when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like, it bothers me if I've done things before, if I know how to do things that look kind of hard, but I don't know. I'm just weird, and I get very agitated at the little things. So. But now we have a little bit of a challenge here. This threw me off the first time I played this stage. As you can see, these cloud platforms that we are walking across and that are disappearing beneath our feet, you have to essentially use that as a way to duck underneath these enemies, especially the Gordo. So you can't just kind of race through, unless you want to get hit a bunch of times and lose health very easily, through the stage, because you have to be able to dodge them. Of course, if you don't want to get hit that many times. So using these clouds and waiting for them to disappear is the trick in order to get around the enemies in this stage. So I kind of like this mechanic. I think it's maybe an idea that maybe could have been reused in some other 2D Kirby games, but I like how they used it here. So. We have that spring enemy. These guys kind of show up kind of randomly throughout this game. I don't actually know if we've seen them in this game yet, but they are a lot more common in Adventure, and I want to say they showed up in Kirby's Dream Land 1. I just don't remember for sure. These witches with the brooms, they definitely did. They were a big enemy that, kind of reoccurred throughout Lololo Castle in the first game. So that's something that I kind of like, how they bring back, similar enemies, because, we're still in the same world. This is still Dreamland. This is the sequel to the first game, but, we're still in the same universe, so it makes sense. But now we're going to move on through this part, and this is where things get a little dickish. As you can see by me dying right away, that's kind of a sign of things to come. No, really not too difficult. It's just kind of annoying having to fight against this wind current, because it's now blowing you in the opposite direction that you have to actually progress in. So you're literally fighting through it as just Kirby. Probably would have been a little bit easier with Goo. But making these jumps over these Gordo can be quite a chore, because the moment you jump high enough, it's going to blow the hell out of you in the opposite direction, which can send you pretty far back, making it a little bit more time consuming and difficult to get through the stage. So again, another reason why I'm not quite a big fan of the wind blowing mechanic in this game, because it kind of just gets in the way. I don't really see it as I don't really see it as much as like a challenge versus it just being kind of a thing that kind of hinders the game, where it just kind of makes it, I don't know, just kind of tedious. Like I would have been a little bit more comfortable if they had just, or a little less annoyed if they had just came up with a different idea for something like a stage like this. Like maybe have I don't know, they could have came up with, I think, with many different ideas for that. But now we are sent into a room where we have 5 different doors. I have played through this recently, so I know exactly which door to go, but just for funs, we're going to go ahead and head through every single one. The first door is going to have these little propeller enemies. I can't remember the name of them. So nothing to do in there other than to take those guys out, go back into the main room. And now we have been thrown into a room with a bunch of Scarfies. These guys always remind me of Pikachu from Pokemon, except a little bit more demonic, because of course once you attack them, they turn into a little bit of a demon-looking face. Now that we have done with that room, we'll enter in. We will enter door 4. That's going to put us into a room with a bunch of small stars. And the 4th door, well, technically the 5th, is going to put us into a room with nothing but mummified heads. So we'll take these guys out. And that'll allow us to exit that room, which means it only leads us to door number 2, which is the correct door, giving us a bunch of energy drinks, gearing us up for some stuff coming up here very soon. But that's going to do it for that stage. We have finished stage 5. There's only one more stage left to go in Cloudy Park, so we're going to go ahead and take it on right now. As soon as we enter stage 6, we are now faced with another mini-boss fight. This is against Master Green, except it's a little bit more tedious because we not only have to fight Master Green, but we have to fight also against this damn wind that is blowing right in our face. So we actually, this actually makes this a little bit more annoying. Again, another reason why I just kind of despise this wind current mechanic. Just makes things a little bit more tedious. I wouldn't really even consider this a challenge. It's just kind of more of a, hey, here's something we're going to throw at you to make the boss fight just a little bit harder and more dickish. Doesn't really make it that much harder because we got through it with no problem. But we are going to reunite with our pal Rick once again. It's been a long time since we've seen the hamster. And now that we have the spark ability, we can now utilize Rick's beam attack, which is, again, probably my all-time favorite attack in this entire game. I do have to also mention that the beam ability was actually given to you as a completely separate ability that Kirby had in Kirby's Adventure. You actually got it from the Waddle-Doo enemy in Kirby's Adventure, and once you were able to consume that enemy, that gave you the beam copy ability. But this time in this game, we are able to utilize it if we have our good trusty hamster with us. Again, kind of cool, and I like how they're a little bit more creative, especially with the addition of the animal friends in this game, how they kind of give them their own specific abilities based on what copy ability Kirby has. And it is different from his normal attack if he's just all by himself. That is just something I do kind of like. We are thrown into, yet again, another maze room. This time underwater, so Rick is probably not going to be quite as useful this time in the water, but we're going to see what we can do here. But of course, we have more of these demon frogs that are going to harass the hell out of us. We just want to make sure we avoid them, make our way throughout the end of this maze, and we should have many issues here. There's our doorway right there. I think we got hit enough times in that room. And now we are swimming upward, flying above the clouds. And as you can see here, at the very end of the stage, we are given quite a bit of presents. We have an energy drink, a 1-up, and a Maxim tomato, and of course a star as well. Take as much time as you need to collect all of those. You can get them if you need any of those items, because all you have to do is just fall down if you miss any of them, and the air current will then shoot you straight back up. That way you can collect all of the other items. But that's going to do it for stage 6, the last stage of Cloudy Park, which means there's only one thing left to take on. And it is the 6th boss. We're going to chill here, just kind of admire our scenery for the final time. Ending our journey through Cloudy Park at this moment. Just going to chill on top of this giant volcano, knowing that we will never be able to actually utilize it in an actual stage. And it is now time to take on the 6th boss. This is Kracko. This is a very familiar boss in the Kirby 2D series, and he again returns in Kirby's Dream Land 2. This time he has 2 phases, just like he did in Kirby's Dream Land 1. However, the first phase, he is actually going to be part of the cloud that you are standing on. He's going to start off by just kind of popping out as a creepy little eye inside of the cloud, and then he's going to shoot out these miniature Kracko enemies that look kind of like him that you will use as the ammunition to shoot against him. He will become airborne once he shoots out these enemies, and that is when you want to take the chance to strike. After witnessing his nasty, gross eyeball roll all over the cloud arena, we now enter phase 2 of the fight. He is now taking the form of a cloud himself, which is a little bit more familiar to how we have seen him in the past. And this time, we are kind of doing a similar thing, except his attacks are a little bit different. He's going to do a lightning attack where he will chase you like this until you get to the very end of the screen, and then he's going to shoot out more of his miniature Krakos that you want to, of course, use to shoot back at him. He's a little bit more threatening in this phase, and of course with all these different laser and lightning attacks, it's a little bit more difficult to avoid them. You just want to get really to the edge of the screen is really my advice for this fight, and just run the hell away from him when he's doing it, and just try to stay as far away from these attacks as possible. I have to say, Krako is probably one of my all-time favorite bosses in the Kirby 2D series. He is just a little bit more threatening looking than most of the bosses, and he's just very fun to fight against. I don't know what it is. And I have to say, as much as I do love Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright and how they appear in the game, and their attack patterns are really difficult, but still fun to fight against as well, Krako just has a different vibe to him where he's just a little bit more threatening looking. And of course, gotta mention the elephant in the room. His gigantic eyeball in the center of his body is just creepy as hell. And I don't know what it is, but he just comes off very menacing. After about 8 hits, he will be taken down at last. Jumping back into Cloudy Park for the final time, of course, you know what that means. It is time to take on the 6th bonus chance. And this is the last one of the game because there is not one in the final level. This time around, we are brought back into the Cloudy Arena where we have our stars shooting out of the clouds as well as the miniature Krako eyeball creepy looking things. Of course, what you want to do here is just avoid these creepy little eyeball things, and you can grab your stars once they shoot out of the cloud. This one, I have to say, is probably one of the easier ones, and it is kind of weird that they did make the final bonus chance a lot easier than some of the previous ones. It's a little odd. I'm not going to argue with it because I think I went through enough hell with some of the previous ones in the past. So if they're going to give me one, if they're going to give me an easy one at the end, I'm not going to fight against it. But that's going to do it. We got that done in just one attempt. Not too bad. We are finally exiting Cloudy Park, which means there was only one destination left on the list, and it is the Dark Castle. This is it. This is the final level. So next time on Let's Play Kirby's Dream Land 2, we will be taking on the Dark Castle of Doom, where we will have our final stages, our final boss fight, and the end of the game. So until next time, I will see you on the finale.